You see them on TikTok. You see them in the office. You hear the stereotypes, lazy, entitled, avocado toast, quiet quitting. You think Gen Z is broke. You think they are struggling to figure out life. You think they are waiting for handouts. You are wrong. Dead wrong. While the rest of the world was mocking their dance videos, Gen Z quietly built a financial architecture that is outperforming Millennials and Gen X at the same age. In 2026, the data is in, and it is shocking. Gen Z is saving at nearly double the rate of Millennials. They are investing earlier. They are avoiding the debt traps that crippled the generations before them. They aren't just lucky. They have optimized the system. They have abandoned the old world financial advice that is keeping you broke. Advice like loyalty to a company, saving cash in the bank, and waiting to invest until you have enough money. Today, we are dissecting the Gen Z wealth protocol. We are going to look at the specific math behind their acceleration, the apps they use to arbitrage the system, and the mindset shifts you need to adopt right now if you want to catch up. This isn't about generational warfare. This is about stealing the best strategies from the new players to fix your own balance sheet. Let's start with the biggest difference, the death of loyalty. If you are over 30, you were raised on a lie. You were told, stay at a company for 5 years, climb the ladder, get the pension or the gold watch. Gen Z watched their parents get laid off after 20 years of loyalty. They saw the game was rigged, so they changed the rules. Their strategy is job hopping for velocity. Step 1. The 2-year switch strategy. Let's do the real math. This is the single most important calculation for your wealth in 2026. Imagine 2 workers. Worker A is a millennial with the old mindset. Worker B is a Gen Zer with the new mindset. They both start at the same company, making $50,000 a year. Worker A stays loyal. They get the standard cost of living adjustment raise, usually about 3% a year. Year 1, $51,500. Year 2, $53,045. Year 3, $54,636. After 5 years of loyalty, Worker A is making roughly $58,000. They have gained $8,000 in annual salary. They feel secure. Worker B executes the 2-year switch. They work hard for 2 years, build the resume, and then interview at a competitor. In 2026's high mobility market, a job switch typically commands a 15 to 20% salary bump. Start $50,000. Year 2, Worker B leaves. They get a new job at $60,000, a 20% jump. Year 4, Worker B switches again. They get a new job at $72,000, another 20% jump. By year 5, Worker A is earning $58,000. Worker B is earning $72,000. That is a $14,000 annual gap. Over a career, that difference compounds into hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost earnings for the loyal employee. Gen Z understands that loyalty is a tax. If you are over 30 and you haven't switched jobs in 4 years, you are effectively paying a loyalty tax to your employer. You are subsidizing their profits with your stagnation. Step 1. Check the market rate for your role today. If you are underpaid, you are the problem, not the economy. This brings us to the second weapon in their arsenal, radical transparency. If you are over 30, you were told talking about money is rude. You whisper about salaries. You don't know what the guy next to you makes. Gen Z, they have spreadsheets. They have group chats. They post salary bands on TikTok. Step 2. The data arbitrage. In 2026, salary transparency laws are in full effect in major economies. Companies are forced to post ranges, but the old generations ignore this data. Gen Z uses it like a weapon. Let's say you are applying for a marketing manager role. The old strategy is to wait for the offer and negotiate timidly. The Gen Z strategy is reverse engineering. Before the interview, they pull data from apps like Glassdoor, Levels.fyi, and Payscale. They know the 25th percentile is 60,000 and the 75th percentile is 85,000. When the recruiter asks, "What are your salary expectations?" the old player says, "I'm looking for something in the 60s. overvaluing themselves. The Gen Z player says, based on my research for this market and the responsibilities listed, the market rate is between 75 and 85,000. I'm looking for the top end of that band. By simply citing data, they anchor the negotiation $10,000 higher. If you don't know the numbers, you are negotiating blind. Step 2. Find a salary transparency website right now. Look up your exact title. If you are below the median, you have work to do. Now, let's talk about how they invest. This is where the myth that they are broke falls apart. You think Gen Z is gambling on meme coins and losing everything. Sure, some are. But the data shows that a massive percentage of Gen Z is utilizing micro-investing strategies that older generations ignore because the amounts seem too small. Step 3. The fractional advantage. Old financial advice says, wait until you have a lump sum, maybe $1,000 or $5,000, to open a brokerage account. The result? Most people over 30 wait until they are 35 or 40 to start investing. They lose a decade of compounding. Gen Z uses apps that allow fractional shares. They don't need $400 to buy a share of Amazon or Google. They buy $1 worth. Here is the math on why this matters. Imagine you start investing at age 22. You can only afford to invest $50 a month because you are broke. You invest $50 a month into an S&P 500 index fund. Average return, let's say 8%. By the time you are 30, 10 years later, you have invested $6,000 total. But because of compounding, your portfolio is worth roughly $9,000. Now look at the millennial strategy. They wait until they are 32 to start. They finally have enough money. They invest $500 a month. They have to play catch-up. The Gen Z investor who started with just $50 has a 10-year head start on the compounding curve. To catch up to that same total value at retirement, the millennial has to invest significantly more capital because they lost the time variable. Gen Z automated the process. They use roundups. They buy a coffee for $4.50. The app rounds up to $5 and invests 50 cents. It's painless. It's invisible. It builds a habit. If you are over 30 and you are waiting for a windfall to start investing, you are playing a losing game. Step 3. Open a fractional investment platform today. Automate $100 a month. Do not wait for a lump sum. Let's move to the debt aversion strategy. Millennials and Gen X were sold the lie of good debt. Student loans are good debt. Credit cards are normal. Gen Z saw the student loan crisis destroy their older siblings. They are terrified of debt. And in this economy, that fear is financial intelligence. In 2026, interest rates are high. Credit card interest rates are sitting at 22 to 25%. If you carry a balance, you are working for the bank. You are indentured. Gen Z uses a strategy called the debit-first protocol. They use credit cards strictly for rewards, but they pay them off daily or weekly. They don't wait for the statement. If you are over 30, you might have lifestyle creep. You got a raise, so you leased a nicer car. You upgraded your apartment. Gen Z is practicing lifestyle anchoring. Even when they get a raise, like the 20% jump from job hopping, they keep living like a student for a few years. They bank the difference. Let's look at the math on lifestyle anchoring. You get a raise from $50,000 to $60,000. The old reaction, I can finally afford that $700 car payment. The Gen Z reaction, I will keep my expenses at the $50,000 level. I will invest the extra $10,000 a year. If you invest that $10,000 a year for just 3 years at 7%, you have $35,000. That is a down payment on a house. That is a seed for a business. The old generations spend the raise. Gen Z invests the raise. This is the simplest, most powerful wealth hack in existence. Step 4. Freeze your lifestyle expenses for 1 year. Any raise you get goes straight to an investment account. Finally, we need to talk about the side hustle economy. You might mock the influencer culture. You might think making content is a waste of time. But Gen Z treats their income as modular. They don't rely on one paycheck. One paycheck is risky. Two paychecks are stability. They have their W-2 job. They have a freelance gig. They have digital assets. In 2026, the creator economy is mature. You don't need 1 million followers to make money. You need 1,000 true fans. If you have a niche skill, accounting, writing, coding, fixing cars, you can monetize it on a Friday night. Older generations watch Netflix on Friday nights. Gen Z builds digital assets. Even if it's just $200 a month from a side gig, $200 a month invested is $2,400 a year. Over 20 years at 8%, that is over $100,000 generated from a small side hustle. That stupid TikTok channel or Etsy shop? It's an asset. It's a business. It's diversification. To wrap this up, the gap isn't about age. It's about strategy. Gen Z has adopted a high-velocity financial model. They move jobs fast. They negotiate hard. They invest small amounts early. They avoid debt like the plague. They monetize their spare time. If you are over 30, you have a superpower that Gen Z doesn't have, time. But you have to use it. You can't afford to be loyal. You can't afford to be polite about salary. You can't afford to wait to invest enough. Stop mocking the youth. Start studying them. Look at your job tenure. Look at your savings rate. Look at your debt. The playbook has changed. The old rules are dead. The lazy generation is actually the most efficient financial generation in history. They aren't waiting for permission to be rich. And neither should you. Adopt the protocol. Switch the job. Automate the investment. Anchor the lifestyle. Your future self is counting on it.